Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Suzy Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have another really exciting interview ahead of us about someone who helps awaken boldness and creativity in her audiences. Today, you'll be meeting Tricia Rose Burt, a woman in the middle entrepreneur who unlocks her clients' creativity, stories, and passion, helping them craft and develop clear, powerful messaging. Welcome to the show, Tricia. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, Suzy, I'm so tickled to be here. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. And we're just having a great time in the pre-interview. This interview is going to be awesome. I know it. So here's how we like to get started. I'm going to ask you a big, juicy question, and you can just run with it. First of all, how old are you? How long have you been an entrepreneur? And what is it that you do? So answer those questions and just talk about your entrepreneurial journey. Take it away.
I will do so. I am 64, which is astonishing to me. And I have not had a conventional job since 1992.
Ooh.
So, part of that was being a contractor for other people. Part of it was doing my own thing. But I have not done it in a conventional way since 1992, which has worked out best for everyone, might I add. A friend of mine said I don't breed well in captivity, so it's best if I'm doing my own thing. And what do I do in the world? I try to help people be more brave, and I do that sort of in a variety of ways. And it's it's informed by my own experience. I don't know that I made a real decision of my own until I was 30. I was raised, really to conform. There was a very prescribed way to live. And so I did that until everything blew up because that didn't really work for me. And so I was told I should go into business. And so I did. And I went into public relations because I was told I was good with people. And so I, went and did that. And then I ended up in corporate communications, and I'm working with all these financial services firms. And, I was at Harvard Business School and Fidelity Investments, and I was just miserable. I mean, I was so miserable. And so I started looking for other things I could do with my life. And I started taking classes, and it was like, needlepoint and French and, directing. And then I ended up at the Museum School of Fine Arts in Boston. And there was a class called Artist Process. And I went in that summer going, well, I'll probably apply to business school, but let me just, check this out. And left applying to art school and getting in. And it was it was like, what the heck? But the thing that's interesting is like a year before, I'd gone to a career counselor to say, what am I doing? And she said, you need to work on your own, not for anybody else. You need a tremendous amount of flexibility, and you need to be in the arts. And I was like, I don't know who that person is, so I'm going to go accept a job as director of corporate communications for a financial services firm because I just couldn't process.
Too big a leap.
Way too big. I'm like, who is that? I don't know. And so, but then I was still miserable. I'm like, oh, well, maybe she was onto something. And so I went to art school, and suddenly I was like, the main thing art school did for me was teach me how to ask questions. I didn't realize I was actually allowed to ask questions. What did I want? What was important to me? What kind of voice it was really helping me find my voice.
Now, let me just interrupt with a question here. That is so fascinating. So it sounds like when you were coming up, you were taught to be a good girl.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Good girls had to do X, Y, and Z, and that was that. So I didn't realize that not asking questions was part of that whole story.
Yeah. You don't ask any questions. You just do as you're told.
Okay.
And so, I was, in art school going, what is happening? Like everyone was asking questions. There was I'm like, I don't even know. I can't do any self-expression because I don't know. I don't have a self to express. And so it really took me a while to figure out like.
No, I am just grinning my face off here. It's hilarious. Like, were you walking around in a suit? What were you doing
on that
campus?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was like totally in a suit. Like, I mean, and Because that's, everyone I knew was in business. There was their business or their, or, caregivers, homemakers.
Well, I have a very important question for you then.
What is that?
When did you buy your first pair of Birkenstocks?
I mean, I do not own a pair of Birkenstocks. Let me just be clear here. I do not own them. But it was just, what I would do is I'd go consult at Harvard Business School. Then I would go to art school, or I'd go consult at Fidelity Investments, and I'd go to art school. And I had this it was just messing with my head because I was in such different worlds. And then the creative world won out. And so in 1 week, I quit my job, divorced my husband. That was not a whim. It had been in the works for 2 years. It wasn't like, off with you. I mean, that was just something I'm done. No, that was not it. So I quit my job, divorced my husband, sold my car, got rid of my apartment, cashed all my retirement savings, and moved over to Ireland for 4 years.
Okay, wait. How old are you when all this is happening?
34.
Wow.
And I did it because I had created a life that required a high-paying job I didn't want anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't stay. In my head, I was like, I can't stay. I have to remove myself from this environment and completely reinvent myself. And I was unencumbered. I didn't have a husband. I didn't have children. Of course, all my friends were having their second and third children. I'm like, I'm all interested in rest. I was going to art school, going this is great paint. It was a whole different thing. So I just knew I had to remove myself from everything. And I did. And I was over there for 4 years living on, my good looks for the most part.
And why Ireland? Why Ireland?
There was the museum school had the museum school in France and the museum school in Japan, and they had the museum school in Ireland. So I was like, yeah, okay, I don't like to watercolor. And I went over there, but I want to go to Ireland. And I went there for 3 weeks and came back and was like, yeah, I need to just move there. And so I went over there thinking I would be there for 6 months and stayed for 4 years. Okay. And in the process found the right husband, and so came back with, prepared to be an artist. And it's tricky to go from the cash flow of being a consultant to the cash flow of being an artist. I'm like, wow, this is different. This is different. And so, I've been you get scrappy if you're an artist. You're pretty scrappy. But I was lucky because I had all this business expertise. Because if you're an artist, you're a solo entrepreneur. I mean, you're making stuff, but you're basically a business. And so you have to know how to run it. And then I will say this one thing that got this was a really important part of me becoming brave. When I was making the decision to move over to Ireland for what I thought was 6 months and turned into 4 years, all of my friends were like, and the fear is, and the fear is, and the fear is, a lot of fear coming to my way. And I was talking to a priest at one of the priests at my church, and he said, Tricia, everyone will tell you the cost of going, but no one will tell you the cost of staying. And I'm like,
very wise.
I am out of here. I mean, I am out of here because you know what I mean? We think we do something that's secure, and it's killing us long term, at least for
and there's no security anyway.
There is no security. It's a big fat lie. There's no security. And so I've learned that, my thing in my podcast, which is No Time to Be Timid, I have a manifesto. And the first point is the riskiest thing you can do is play it safe. Because for me, every time I played it safe, it just blew up. It just blew every time. I'm like, well, let me do it the conventional way. And it was like, no, that's not going to work. So, I was came back to the United States. We moved to New Hampshire. I was a visual artist for a long time and doing, arts administrative work, blah, blah. And then the market crashed in 2008, or did whatever we say it did. And no one was buying visual work anymore. No one was hiring consultants. And I'm like, well, I know, I'll go into performance because, that's so lucrative. Let me jump into that. But I'd had this solo show in my head for 13 years. And it had just been I was doing it to the dashboard of my car. And I thought, well, let me do that. And it was called I Will Be Good, which later became called How to Draw a Naked Man. And it was about my transition from being a corporate executive to becoming an artist. And that got the attention of an organization called The Moth, which is a storytelling it's a storytelling collective out of New York, which is about the art and craft of storytelling. They found out that I had this huge business background. I started teaching storytelling to the corporate executives. They have an arm called MothWorks. So I'm in front of companies. And so suddenly there is this blend
Yep.
of this business experience and my art experience.
It's an ikigai moment.
Tell me what that is.
Oh, ikigai, it's a Japanese model with 4 quadrants.
Yes.
Look at different aspects in your life and see how they combine.
Okay. Yeah.
To help you determine your purpose and passion.
So it's total overlap, right? So things
Yeah.
are starting to come together here. And so when I started performing, I mean, I was raised never to draw attention to myself. And when I started performing, I'm like, okay, I'm enjoying this probably too much. Like it was, I am my best self when I'm in front of people. It just, and when I realized, I mean, it happened because a friend of mine said, "Hey, Tricia, I want to take a public speaking course because I'm afraid to be in front of people." And I was like, that's so weird. I look for audiences. And I realized that what comes very easily to me does not come easily to other people. And so this is a gift. Like, use the gift, And so I started doing that. And so I was, storytelling a lot and teaching storytelling a lot. And then COVID happened and I lost all my work because it was all live. And I was working for another company so I was with the Moth. I was working with another company called Story Brand out of Nashville, helping people, teaching businesses how to use story in their marketing. And I was starting to get tired of making money for other people.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm kind of on their schedule. I'm doing, whatever. And I'd been people had told me, "Oh, you need to turn this one woman show into a memoir." And it's not that easy, by the way, and to write a memoir. And so it was February of 2020, and I was realizing, I don't think I'm supposed to be doing this contract work anymore. I was in a motel, roadside motel in Algonquin. I can't remember the name of it, Wisconsin, in February. And I thought, I don't Algoma, Wisconsin, in February. I'm like, I think this is not what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And so I was realizing before COVID hit, you need to do a change here. My memoir didn't get picked up. COVID happened and I lost all my work. And then my husband flew into a mountain hang gliding and almost died. And then I turned 60. And so I was like, we got to shake it up here. Like, what it was one of those. I know you ask people often, was there a major event that kind of shook you up?
Yeah, wake up call.
And I had been traveling so much. And then there was COVID, so nobody was traveling. Then my husband had this accident. And he's perfectly fine now. You'd never know he was in an accident. But I'm like, I have this fabulous studio in my backyard. I don't want to travel anymore. I got to just rethink things. So I reached out to a creative coach, and he was talking to me about all of these skill sets that I'd gathered along the way. And he says, all of these skill sets. And I'd always wanted to do a podcast. And, but I just couldn't get it together. And I was kind of scared. And how does it work? And I don't know. And then the Moth called me up and said, we want to run one of your stories on the the Moth Radio Hour. I said, that's great. Hey, and this was February of 2022. Hey, you know how you do a biography at the end? And they're like, yeah. I said, could you please say that Tricia Rose Burt is the host of the popular new podcast, No Time to Be Timid? And they said, sure. I said, great. I didn't own a microphone. I'd never taken a class before. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew that 2 million people were going to hear in May my story and that bio. And I'm like, go big or go home. Like, do it right now. And so that's when I launched the podcast, and it started getting it's like I'm kind of developing this sort of ecosystem or this enterprise of where everything talks to each other. So I'm either coaching clients on storytelling and helping them be more brave in their messaging and getting out there and saying what they need to say. And I have coached everyone from nuns to private equity people. It's having that message of bravery and talking to other artists and entrepreneurs so I can get more brave, having them on the show. And then producing works that, really ins just inspire me and inspire other people to go out there and do what they're called to do.
So what is your art outlet personally?
My personal art outlet, well, I have to just get my hands to move. It just feels good to make something.
Mhm.
I don't do visual work anymore for galleries. I do it just so I don't go crazy. It's just helpful. But it is story. I'm working on a one-woman show now, and so it's always story. And it's interesting because I was raised not to draw attention to myself, but I had a Marion Roach Smith is a wonderful mentor, memoir writer, and she was like, "It's it's not about you, it's about the message. It's about either, finding your authentic self or resiliency or whatever it might be, and you just happen to be, the illustration." So it nudges me off stage. So I feel very comfortable telling these stories 'cause it's not about me, it's about this bigger thing.
Now, one thing I wanted to just draw on because it was so funny, when I read it, you glossed over it, you said it so quickly, "How to Draw a Naked Man." So, I know it was downloaded. Do you mean was it like a TED Talk or
So it was on the Moth stage, and the Moth has, they have the Moth Story Slams, and they have the Moth main stage, and they asked me to tell that story, um, back in May of 2011. I was a wreck, and I went down to tell this. I mean, at first, I'm going down to they asked me to tell the story, and I'm like, "Okay," and I'm like, there's this train wreck of, arrogance, naivete going, "I'm gonna tell the best story ever," and I go down to New York, and I walk into the room, and the other 4 storytellers are there, and one is, an international scientist who's telling a story about, following the jumping spider in Sri Lanka during a coup when, corpses are floating down the river, and,
Right.
I mean, it's just like everybody's stories are so intense, and I'm telling a story of going to art school where I draw for the model for the first time. I'm, like, horrified that it's I mean, that's all it is. I just went to art school and drew from the model. And, Catherine Burns, who's their former artistic director, said, "First of all, Tricia, do you think that we would have you be on this?" Because I'd said to her, "You've made a huge mistake. I have no business being on this stage." And she said, "Do you think we'd have you on the stage if we didn't think you were ready? And secondly, not all stories are extreme, but they need to be told."
That's
And
right.
it was a huge direction for me, right?
Well, as soon as just as you're saying it, like, first of all, if I had to draw a naked man, I have never just saying naked is so funny. Um,
Welcome to the South.
but I would be so uncomfortable. I've never done that, and I know many artists are in that situation, but I have never done that, and I would be squirming.
Well, for me, it was like, ca first of all, we're in this room and everyone's drawing from this model, and I'm thinking, because I have no imagination at the time, they're all gonna look the same. I'm thinking we're all gonna look all the model is it's everything's gonna look the same. So I asked this woman next to me, her name was Judy, she was in her 60s. I was like, "Judy, what are these supposed to look like?" And she said, "They're all going to look different." And I was horrified. I'm like, "What is mine supposed to look like? I don't even know how to do this." So I
Mm.
start so I started because I was like, "Can we do a slide presentation? I know how to do that. Can I talk to your board of directors? I can." But drawing from the model, I was so freaked. I was so far out of my comfort zone. So far out of my comfort zone. And I managed to do something, and, one of the instructors came up, put my, drawing up on the wall for all the students. We had a bunch of drawings right there, but mine was one of them. And, he had really talked me off the ledge and said, "Just, make a mark and start." I
Mm.
will I will be buried with that gesture drawing. I mean, I will it is one of my most treasured possessions is this.
Yeah, like, it
Yeah.
symbolizes such a
It
powerful
was
moment.
such a moment when I'm like, I left there thinking, "I can climb mountains," because it was just breaking open. I mean, I cried every day in art school because it was breaking open how I had thought for years,
Mhm.
how I had thought for years. And and I think that's part of what I try to help my clients do and get artists on, that I talk to of how do we break open that thinking? How do we
Yeah.
get more agile in our brains? How
Yeah,
do
to
we
see what's possible,
to
to really
see what's
understand this
possible?
is a thought. It doesn't have to be that way. It's actually holding me back. But we're
Absolutely.
so used to going small versus going
Going small.
large, right?
And I had done, my one-woman show a particular way for 5 years. Literally said the words the exact same way for 5 years. I got a director who came in and she said, "Yeah, you need to do this differently, and I'm gonna make it," and she was making it come so alive. "Susie, we're in this directing," she's directing me. I'm crying and laughing while I'm trying to say the words differently because my brain is hurting. It's
Yeah.
like wagon wheels in the same ruts and trying to get them out. It was so powerful to go, "Oh, dear God, if you think the same way and don't challenge yourself, whoa," I mean, and the whole show, I mean, it just broke me wide open about how to be a performer.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing this right here. It's so fascinating when we blow our own minds.
Mhm.
And I also laugh sometimes. Like it's better to be compassionate, but I'm like, "Oh my God, I just can't believe I was thinking that." One of the thoughts I had that got blown open, and it was right at the beginning of my self-development journey after I got laid off
Yeah.
after a long-term job. And I was talking about weight loss, and I shared with a coach I didn't know well. I put myself in a group to start to understand mindfulness. I shared with somebody. She said, "Well, why do you think you're struggling?" I said, "Well, I'm only 4'10". It's harder for me to lose weight." And she, of course, called me on it, called me
Yeah.
out, and to me, it just felt like a fact, and I'd been thinking it
Yeah.
for 40 years.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
challenged me,
Yeah.
but somehow I mixed up this concept that when you're shorter or when you have like a shorter waist or weight gain or where you put on weight or what you look like in a picture when you
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I
Oh,
was
yeah.
mixing up all of that stuff, and it came to this thought that was really weird and definitely created a situation where I would fail in advance because I had a genetic defect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And
Who knew?
the limitations we put on ourselves,
Unbelievable.
it's just astonishing what I mean, for me, I've always struggled with somehow I'm fragile. I'm physically
Mm.
fragile. Like that's just gonna be too hard for me to do.
Mhm,
You know,
mhm.
whether it's an intense travel schedule or I don't know what is like, I don't know. I just not who what? I'm
I don't
perfectly
know.
I mean, when did I become a wimp? I don't know. I mean,
You
it's
don't
just
sound like a wimp to me, but this is the creativity is so fascinating. It's something I deal a lot with too because I'm creative and I'm really
yes.
pushing myself to embody it. And I just find so many women, especially midlife women, just don't believe they're creative and they only think of creativity as art or art
Yes, with a capital
skills.
A, with a
With it,
capital A.
yes, right? Like fine art.
Mhm.
And I think that, so many of us had that desire and those skills squished,
Absolutely.
extinguished for fear that we couldn't make a living if we pursued that path. And for so many, it just wasn't a part of their life. I remember having a thought at my high school. It was a very big high school, and it had all these special wings. It had an Olympic-sized pool and a diving well
Oh,
and a
wow.
planetarium, and it had, like, major stuff. And there was this big art department. I wrote down in grade 9 that I wanted to become a graphic artist. So it was the late '70s in my careers paper.
Yes.
Never once took a course in that department because I thought that, that's not what you did if you had a lot of academic skills.
Yeah, sure. I mean, creativity is a lesser skill.
That's really what it felt like to
Yeah,
me, and I didn't even allow myself to take a course. My
yeah,
first art course was in the last 10 years.
yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you took one.
I did, in caustic wax
Yeah, see, that's
with
fantastic. Oh, God, it's
photography.
so much fun.
Photo and caustics, that's what I did, and it was
Oh,
fantastic.
but
Anyway,
I went to art school thinking, well, artists are probably kind of stupid, and then it's like, oh my God, they're scholars. They're totally
I
scholar.
know, it's
But the message that gets sent about artists and about creativity and that it's all about logic, it's all about analysis. That's the stuff that matters. It's concrete, it's logic. It's like, no, no.
it's not well understood, and honestly,
Mm-mm.
doing my podcasts, the 2 podcasts, it's the most creative thing I've ever done in my life.
Oh, sure.
No
And
question.
and your brain is constantly problem solving. And I mean, the thing about creativity is, I mean, yes, I would love if the world had more artists and if the world had more poets and musicians. What could be wrong with that? But what we need are more creative thinkers.
Yeah.
And we need people who know how to problem solve and know how to figure things out. And that's the kind of people I loved. That's what the people I have on my show is. How did you figure that out? How are we being, because it isn't just art with a capital A. I mean, I had 3 women on my show last week. They're all over 60s. They should be on your show. And one is like, she started a business 30 years ago and had to develop it. And it's now an app. She taught herself how to do an app.
Well,
And
in technology, that's a whole other thing for women our
it could
age.
just make me weep. The thought, I could just weep over anything
I have weeped.
technology. Yes. Oh my God.
Cried.
It undoes me, and another one, she started an etiquette business and another one finally did a cookbook, but they're over 60 going, I'm just doing my thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're being very creative because it takes to make anything, whether it's a business or a pie, it's creative.
Absolutely. Okay, I could talk to you for hours, but I do need to get to a couple of very
I'm sorry.
questions.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. Honestly, we could talk for hours. I'm
We
positive.
could. I did.
I'm making notes of things
I'm
wanna share with
really
you.
excited about this encaustic wax glass that you took. I'm like,
Okay, so the thing I love, really love talking about on this podcast is what is going on for us at this age that is actually getting in the way of how we want to run our business. So there's a lot of midlife crapola, midlife challenges, midlife sticky situations, obligations, responsibilities. Some of that, of course, is subjective, but whatever it is, however it shows up for you. I know that you mentioned a few things in your notes, and one of them was helping your older mother who lives in a different state. So tell us a little bit about that and anything else.
yeah. Well, you know what? Mama died April 15th.
Oh, shame.
And it's okay. She was 94, lived a very large life. She was ready to go, and and so it's a little tender, but it's also like I was not robbed of my mother. She was 94. We got my mother for a long time. Now the last 3 years she was struggling with dementia. I like to say she was sassy as ever, but couldn't remember lunch, but she could remember all of our names, which was great. And so, but what was it, just this week, I got a flash of what it will be. I mean, because I was going down to see my mother every 2 months for 3 years, at least 2, close to 3. And it was, I would not do it any other way than the way I did it. But it was incredibly disruptive because I couldn't get any traction. I can remember recording the top of show of a podcast in a friend of mine's closet down in Tampa. Because you couldn't, it was just hard to get a rhythm. You couldn't do any work down there, so I could never, and I think so many of us who are taking care of elderly parents, your brain is you're just hyper vigilant, and my husband had this serious accident in August of 2020. It's a miracle he's walking. It's a miracle he's alive. It's a miracle he's still him. And I was hyper vigilant for a solid year, just on it. And literally the week, it was like he got the all clear. I'm like, it's all about me now. This is great. It can be all about me. And 2 weeks later, I went home to see my mother and she couldn't remember anything short term. And I'm like, it is not all about me yet. It's not all about me. We're going to do this now. And so we did that, for 3.5 years.
Wow.
And it's, as much as I miss her, there's relief that's attached to that. There's a sense of, okay, all right, let's get a rhythm now. Let's get some traction in places that we couldn't have gotten traction. My biggest concern is she was such a source of so much of my material. That I'm like, one of her greatest lines when she saw my visual work was, "Why is it so dark? Why aren't there any heads?" So she was always trying to figure out what is she doing over there. But so that was the biggest thing. That's right now it's like, that's a seismic shift.
It sure is.
Seismic shift.
I know the other thing you mentioned, I have heard a few times also on the show. It's when you see your friends and family, people that you know and love, they're playing golf, they're gearing
Oh, yeah.
down, and you're like all charged up and ready to go. You're gearing up.
Yeah.
So how's that play out for you?
I mean, I'm just really thoughtful about first of all, I have to have a lot of grace. Not everybody, you gotta be careful you don't come off as judgmental. I've had to be really careful, because my life looks completely different than what I was raised to be. And I go back home to Tampa, and I gotta tell you, sometimes I'm like, "Ah," I am. I mean, there are friends there that they're my dearest of the dearest of the dearest. I mean, I'm at my mother's funeral, and the whole back row is filled with these women who would be here in an instant if I needed anything.
Mm.
And you just can't. They're the friends for life and forever, and they have supported my work, even though they're kind of going, "What is she doing up there?" So, but and they're in different. They all have grandchildren. We didn't have children, and so make sure I surround myself with people who are curious and making things. And, um, and so that's intentional to be very careful about who I surround myself with, because if you're not with the people who get, "Oh, of course you're interested in rest," or, "Of course you're interested in doing everything," you'll lose you kinda lose your vision for yourself, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean, and there is some research that shows that I forget the number, but something like 5 or a small group of people, that those people are very key to
Mm.
influence, right? The way
Yeah.
that you're influenced. So if they're smart,
Yeah.
if they're active,
Yep,
and
yep,
if they're
exactly.
creative, it can really influence you.
And so, it's like I have these like in these the rock of I've got 7 women that I went to high school with that again I could call right now and they would be here instantly for me. 7 women from college, again, the same thing.
Wow.
Um, and so I'm incredibly blessed with those relationships and they're very supportive of my work. And I'm really thoughtful about making sure I've got, artists in my life who
Mm.
can understand, things that maybe others might go, wait, what? Because our brain, I mean, we're not, artists aren't really kind of part of the general population. We're kind of always looking at things just a little bit off.
Mhm,
The
mhm.
same as entrepreneurs. I mean, we're just being creative, going, what can I do different? How can I fix
Yeah.
that? What can I do?
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. What do you think is the most positive thing or the most surprising thing in a positive way about being over 50, being over 60, and being an entrepreneur?
Just not caring what anybody else thinks. I mean, and plus all these life experiences. And I mean, I have a gravitas now that I didn't have before. I mean, I've just been around longer. And also, I'm really good at what I do. I've honed my craft and it's given me, oh, I mean, there are times I'm in front of some very powerful people. Um, and I'm like, "How nice for you. I can tell stories better than you. And and this is why you've hired me." Right? And so I can step into that authority in a way I couldn't have done 10 years ago. I couldn't
Oh,
have done
yeah.
certainly couldn't have done 20 years ago, and so there's a groundedness, there's an and I'll tell you that hard stuff. Like with my husband's accident, it was something, and it was during COVID, and I was doing it all by myself, and I was like, "Wow, look at you." I mean, because I was just it's the hard stuff that doesn't have to do with our work can inform how sturdy we are in our work, right? Do you know what I mean? And so even with my mother, just the resilience and the steadfastness of my commitment to her. And navigating all the stuff that went on with every, caregivers and all this stuff, that plays out in our work. It's the same, you just flex those muscles in your work. So
Absolutely. I keep turning off and on the mute because my parrot is all of a sudden I hope you can't hear her because
I can't hear. I
the mic
can't.
is really good, good.
I can't
Because
hear. That's
she's going crazy back there.
so
She has a lot to say. I usually put her in another room, but I took a risk today
funny.
and I left her in her cage in this room. Anyway, that's good. So what are you focusing now on in your business? What's your main focus?
Right now, I'm trying to um, jumpstart uh, my speaking because, again, it's hard to, I was so distracted that was very disruptive. So I'm trying to jumpstart my speaking because I love to do that.
Oh, it's so good.
I do. I love to do that. And I think right now there's so many. When the story How to Draw a Naked Man aired on the Moth in 2011, like 250,000 people downloaded that podcast. And sure, it's a good story, but mostly it's because people want permission to go be creative. And they want the courage to go do it. And I still have people reach out to me about that story. I mean, it's remarkable. And so I feel like that's important. I feel like my life experience is important to share because it not because aren't I great, but it's like, well, what happened to me and here's what I did with it. And you can do the same thing, So that feels good. And I'm trying to grow my podcast, because I really, hats off to you. You do such an amazing job with your podcast, Suzy. You really do. You're an inspiration to the rest of us.
Oh my gosh,
And,
Tricia, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that.
oh my
It's a
God.
grind.
How it is a grind, and you're doing it with such grace, and they're so good, and then they're every week. I just like want to take a nap for you. But anyway, so
It's a grind. It's fun. And honestly, it is more challenging. Like I know everybody wants to start a podcast, and a podcast can be amazing and it can be very challenging. So
it's the hardest. I am a smart person, and it's one of the hardest things I've ever done.
well, there you go.
Now in season 4, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm getting the hang of it, but whoo, it is hard. It is hard. And so those two, really getting the speaking up. I feel like my coaching is in a good space. The other thing I'm going to say, I was really nervous about doing a podcast because I thought I'm used to being on the stage. Am I going to be any good at interviewing somebody? Well, when you teach storytelling, all you do is listen and ask questions. So it's a skill set that was easily slotted in. I'm like, oh my God, I'm good at this. So, I think we often forget that these skills are transferable. Like, what works over here is going to work over there. Just try to be as agile. I'm just trying to be as agile as I can.
It's so true. And as women, as older and wiser women, we have a ton of transferable skills.
Oh, yeah.
So many. But tell us, how can somebody get a hold of you? Because I'm sure somebody is going to want to get a hold of you.
I hope so. Okay, let's see. Go to my website, which is TriciaRoseBurt.com. That's TRICIA, roseburt.com. Listen to my podcast, No Time to Be Timid. And you can follow me on Instagram. Any socials, it's Tricia Rose Burt. So that's where I am.
Amazing. And of course, I'll have all of those links in the show notes.
Thank you.
Tricia, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time from your day and sharing all of this. Your stories are very inspirational. I have had a smile on my face the whole time.
It was such a treat. Thank you for having me.
So
on,
much
Suzy.
fun. Thank you. And I wish you the best with your podcast and everything else.
Right back at you.
Okay, so you totally love what you're doing. You are amazing. And that's what we want for our listeners too, right? To be open and to be more curious and to try stuff. We don't want to have those regrets.
Yeah.
So that is it for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 or over and an entrepreneur and would also like to come on the show, please go to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. We'd love to have you on to share your story. Thank you so much for listening. It's never too late to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Suzy Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you again soon. Now, real quick, before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with the show and are finally ready to make some changes to regret-proof your life, I want to invite you to apply for the Women in the Middle Academy. It's my transformational midlife group coaching program to help you get clear about what's getting in your way so you can get on with the good stuff. Head over to www.womeninthemiddleacademy.com. Talk soon.